Hello. Thank you all for coming tonight. I want to start off my presentation by proposing the following thing. We live in a golden age for publication. Never before has it been so easy for anyone in the world to write the first message that comes into their head and write it into their phone and disseminate it and blast it out to millions of people, and within a couple hours it's possible that almost everyone in the world has received that message or been affected by it in one way or another. It's an astonishing thing, the amount of power that the internet puts into every single person's hands. And it really changes the entire nature of every individual's relationship to what they call publication, to making your writing public. English teachers often fret about the effects that social media, email, texting has on student writing abilities. They see weird abbreviations and strange grammar and different kinds of capitalizations, and they see this as evidence of decline or decay in people's ability to use the language. But another way of looking at the same phenomenon would be to suggest that this innovativeness, this experimentation in the language, is actually a sign of the vitality of writing in the current world and its adaptability and its power to meet new challenges in new and exciting ways. And so just a few statistics about the power of the internet, and specifically its power to give a voice to everyone in the world. You've all heard statistics like this before, but they have specific impact when you think about it in terms of actual people writing and sharing their messages with the world. 139,000 new websites every day, 120,000 new blogs created every day, 3 million messages every 20 minutes on Facebook, 58 million tweets per day, on Twitter. These are astonishing numbers, and they represent a huge amount of writing. Every tweet is only 140 characters, but when you multiply that by 58 million, it's a huge amount of writing. People putting sentences together, using their ideas to impact people with the power of the written word. And just another sort of new media thing, 65 hours every minute of content is uploaded onto YouTube. Again, not exactly writing in the traditional sense, but these people who put content onto YouTube, they're composing their messages, they're trying to figure out strategies for reaching an audience, they're putting sentences together, they're doing writing, they're publishing their thoughts. 8 billion text messages are sent every day, 744 billion emails are sent every day. And I think a related phenomenon that is also very telling is that 30% of the top-selling ebooks on Amazon are self-published. These are people who don't go through a traditional publishing firm. They sell millions of books just by the power of the internet to send books out to people. They have an idea, they write it down, they get it published. That's the power of publishing. That's the power of the internet to give a platform to everybody in the world. It really makes you think about how this new phenomenon can really change the entire way that we communicate with each other, what it means when we have an individual thought. It used to be that you would have to go through some gatekeeper, a publishing house, an academic editorial board of a journal, or whatever else to get your work from your head onto the printed page. But now, everybody has that power at the click of a button. One thing that hasn't changed, however, along with this rise in self-publishing and new media, is the way that writing is taught. This fellow here on the slide, his name is Don Murray, and you may not know him by name, but if you've taken an English class in the last 40 years, your curriculum has been influenced by his ideas about writing. Donald Murray is the person who's responsible for imagining the idea of writing as a process. In 1972, he wrote the seminal article, "Writing is a Process, Not a Product," in which he proposed this model of student writing, of how writing would be taught. That you would go through a cycle of pre-writing, writing, and revising, and you kind of go around and around this circle, and that's how you would learn to write, by simply kind of spinning these wheels and producing writing in this fashion. But what you can see, obviously, from this diagram is that there's no publishing here. There's nothing about publication here. Of course, in 1972, if you want to publish, you have to have access to the organs of publication, which are very rare and hard to get access to. But for now, the situation is very different. But the way we teach writing is still caught in this kind of pre-new media paradigm. As you can see, here's a few other examples of Don Murray's ideas with sort of different twists and different sort of formulations, but all involving the same basic character. They go around in cycles through these different stages, and there's no sense of publication as the dominant goal of the process. Here are another couple charts suggesting kind of the same thing. The publication, these charts actually involve a step of publication, or they acknowledge that publication is part of the writing process, but they kind of bury it in all of these other steps. In the one on the top here, publishing is the end process, but it's kind of like an afterthought. The real heart of this diagram is the drafting and revising stage, and then you publish it at some later point. In this circular target-shaped diagram, sharing is there as like the stand-in for publication. And obviously that's important, but it's just buried in all of that other stuff. And then at this sort of mishigas of this web stuff, where there's all these different parts of the writing process, the publishing is, again, it's listed in there, but it's kind of buried in everything else. And here are just a few other slides of representations of the writing process. These are other slides that involve the publication process as part of the writing process, but leave it, that kind of suggest that publication is just one step that is kind of reversible, that you can go back and forth between publication and the other stages of the writing process. It's just one step among many, and you can publish and go back to pre-writing or go back to drafting and revising. But as we know, publication is actually not like that. The person who wrote this headline knows that publication is final, that it's not reversible. County spelling bee post-owned one more time, obviously a big error in that headline, but they couldn't correct it because it's published. The same is true in new media as well. As we all know, once you press send on an email, you can't take it back. You can't go back and revise it. Once you tweet something or post something on Facebook, you can take it off, but once you've done it, whoever's seen it has seen it. I would propose the following model of how we should think about writing, with publication in the dominant position, and everything else, every other stage of the writing process and every other aspect of the writing process subordinated to that master question about where is this getting published, who's going to read it, why is it getting published. All of these other aspects of questions that people deal with when they write, just a basic question of length or format, what kind of tone or vocabulary should they use. These questions are determined by the master question of who is it for, who's going to read it, why are they going to read it. All of that doesn't get expressed if an assignment is just a writing assignment that you write for your teacher. But when you think about an actual publication situation, then all of these variables fall into place. Even the question of your subject matter and the question of what level of complexity you're going to try to express in a piece of writing is determined by where it's going to be published, who's going to read it, and what your goals are. So I would say publication is very important. Publication, especially in our contemporary internet-based world, a dominant force in the world. But education, as I mentioned before, has not really kept up with these changes. And in many ways, partly because of the influence of Don Murray, but also for many other social reasons, education is actually the opposite. Many of the ways that people learn to write are diametrically opposed to the ways that people actually write in the real world. A great example of this is that in education, a reader, the teacher, is paid a salary to read what a student writes. It doesn't matter what the student writes, if it's interesting or not interesting, someone is paid to read it. So they don't have to try to get your attention. This is extremely different from the situation of a real writer. And a great example of this is any random page of the Huffington Post. The Huffington Post is wonderful at crafting headlines that grab a reader's attention. When Amazon last week launched a new automated system to help deliver their packages, instead of just saying Amazon develops new technological system, the people at the Huffington Post say Amazon launches robot army. Amazon launches the robot Aubrey, which is of course crafted to get your attention and to cause you to read the article, even if it's not something you'd be interested in otherwise. The point is that writers work to seduce readers. They need to grab them, and this is a skill that is not really simulated at all in the traditional educational models. Education tends to be very self-oriented. Especially in our culture, the goal of your education is to get knowledge for yourself so that you can get your degree and you can get your career and you can do what you want to do. And of course that's great and an important aspect of the education process, but it leads in writing classes to a lot of very navel-gazing style of writing. A classic example of which is the How I Spend My Summer Vacation essay, where you're just writing about something that no one else cares about, and you're just writing it because it's the part of the assignment that asks you to write about yourself. It's not related to any overall purpose. Whereas in publication, exactly the opposite is true. When you're publishing something, you have to know where it fits in to the network of other things that have been published about whatever you're writing about. You have to know who else has said what else about the topic that you're writing about. You have to know what other publications or what other forums are also addressing the same questions. You have to, in short, you have to be linked in to a network of other writers and readers. One metaphor for the typical way that writing is taught is to think about a book about learning how to ride a bike. In typical class, you students write, they learn the skills involved in writing, and they practice them for the situation that in the future, they might be some situation where they actually have to do some real writing. It's kind of like this training wheels approach to writing, whereas of course the best way to learn how to really write is to actually do it, to actually get on a bike and not just do it in the abstract, but actually physically learn the cognitive mechanical skills that are involved in that activity. Education takes what you might call a kiddie pool approach to writing, where you write in this sort of circumscribed environment that doesn't affect anything else in the real world. You're just off in your own little pool, whereas John Dewey, the grandfather of experiential education, reminds us that education is a process of living and not a preparation for future living, that to live, you actually live, you don't prepare to live. And to write, you don't prepare to write, you actually write, if you're going to write effectively and if you're going to learn through the process. So what we've been trying to do at Goodwin College to develop these insights and to capitalize on the power of new media to publish student writing is what I call embedded writing. We try to identify opportunities where we can hook students up with writing situations where they'll be writing for publication, where they'll be using their writing to do things in the physical world. And so I just want to give you a few examples of how we're incorporating embedded writing into the curriculum here at Goodwin College. We have our literary journal, The Beacon. If you haven't heard of it, you should pick up a copy. Of course, we encourage students and instructors to encourage their students to submit the work that they write for their classes to literary and academic journals. Of course, we have our own in-house version, but there are hundreds and thousands of academic and literary journals that publish work by student writers, work by beginning writers, undergraduates, and even professional writing opportunities. There are so many opportunities, and the web makes them all available for writers to find places where people want to read what they have to say. So the more teachers can do to kind of facilitate or act as literary agents for their students to help them get their work placed, the more meaningful that work will be. Of course, an easier example is simple letters to the editor. Every town has a local publication. Here in Hartford, they make it pretty easy for anyone to log on to the Hartford Current website and submit their own 2 cents on any given local controversy. Students who are encouraged to submit letters to publications in this fashion are surprised by how easy it is to use their words to influence public debate and to persuade other people about the things that are important to them. Of course, there are many other online discussion boards as well on various other sites, some of which are more intellectually stimulating than others, but all of which provide real-time opportunities for students to interact with writers and readers from all around the world. So we're trying to do more to incorporate that into our classes. What you're going to be hearing about in a few minutes tonight are some of the, something else that we've done. We've been trying to partner teams of students up with local businesses to engage in social media campaigns, to try to use their skills as writers to develop marketing materials, online materials, Facebook posts, Twitter posts, to enhance the visibility and the searchability of local businesses like Barrage Designs down in New Haven or National Credit Fixers up here in Vernon. So another example that you'll hear about tonight is an initiative to partner students up with local businesses to develop client-based projects where there's some specific need on the part of the host organization that the students can fill. Tonight, what you'll hear about is a team of students who teamed up with the international engineering firm Quest Global to help them develop an in-house hiring guide to help their human resources people attract talent. So that's something that they did. In another class here at Goodwin College, we have a writing for social media class. We encourage students to start their own businesses. This is material from Alicia, who runs All Photography, which started off as a hobby. She would call her friends and have them pose for her to take portrait photographs of her. She's used this class, this social media class, to help her turn this hobby into a business by developing Facebook pages, YouTube videos, website, blog content, and other marketing materials to help expand her client base and monetize her hobby. A slightly different spin on the same concept. In a environmental studies class, students are studying Connecticut River floodplains right here in East Hartford, right along the bank of the Connecticut River, to study and compile data about the microclimates that are right here under our noses, in which it turns out we don't really know very much about. This work that these students do in these classes is compiled in a database and made available to other researchers and other community activists and other interested parties so that they can use the data that they collect to actually influence what is known about our local environment. Every year there are hundreds and thousands of academic and professional conferences. With a little bit of determination and grit, students can work together to present panels and to develop paper presentations for some of these conferences. And we've had some success sending some students to a local education conference recently. And one last thing that I thought I'd mention. This is Jamie Matos. Some of you might know her. She's wonderful. She's the president of the Poetry Club, and this is her own self-published book that she recently produced. She's the spokesperson for the Poetry Club, and God bless her, she's wonderful, and she does lots of great work, but she's one of only 2 or 3 people in the whole Poetry Club after like many years of doing a Poetry Club. So we thought it would be an interesting project to try to team up a team of students with the Poetry Club to have them do an on-campus program of awareness raising to encourage people to learn more about the Poetry Club, to attend Poetry Club events, and other kinds of things. So students in this future project will be writing news stories and other kinds of blurbs about the Poetry Club as a way of trying to spread the word and boost participation. What was writing invented to do? Writing was invented not just to plague undergraduates and to be a source of frustration. It was invented to communicate, to express, to persuade, to influence, and to exert your own voice over distances beyond the space that you're actually physically able to inhabit. So using some of these techniques of embedded writing, we hope at Goodwin College to continue to give students the tools to use writing in ways that can meaningfully impact their lives and improve their communities. Thank you very much.